Hey folks, welcome back to Around the Yard. Today we're in the wood yard. We've got some ash to split up, but before we get there, you guys might be picking up on this in the video just yet, maybe not. Right down here, we got a new box wedge to try out. Now this is a prototype. It's not available yet through Wolfe Ridge, but we did do some testing on it. Bob Nelson was here from Wolfe Ridge. He brought with 5 box wedge inserts. So I've got the 3.5 by 3.5 box wedge laying over here on the side. This is the 2x4. We also ran a 2x3. We ran a 3x3, a 4x4, and a 4.5 by 4.5. So each wedge got 2 or 3 rounds this size through it. Most of these I would say are in the 18 to 22, maybe some 24s. So look for a video coming out from Wolfe Ridge, or probably several videos coming out from Wolfe Ridge in the near future. They may even be out already, depending on when I decide to drop this. But this is that same day that we are running all the wedges. Bob is gone now, and I'm gonna finish running this pile of rounds on this 2x4 box wedge and see what kind of output we really get on it. The center 2 pieces, so it's still got the main wedge coming up the middle. Either side is the 2x4, and then the outbound pieces we believe to be 4x4. Now when we run a few here and we get some nice clean ones off of these edges, we'll stop a second, get the tape measure out, and figure out what we're really producing. But the gist of it is 2 2x4s and 2 4x4s, and then there's this outbound wing on both sides, and that's going to give you a 4 by whatever's left, so 4 by X. Got our little kitty here. She's made it through the winter, and I think she's going to be a woodyard cat. We'll see. So anyhow, I'm going to get the Wolfe Ridge fired up, warmed up. You guys stick with me. Let me know in the comments down below which wedge you guys would have gone with. Hopefully you'll be able to check out the Wolfe Ridge various wedges. Like I said, what we have stock with the box wedge machine is 3.5 by 3.5. We had the opportunity to run a 3x3, a 4x4, and a 4.5 by 4.5. Bob and I think we're in agreement that the 4.5 is as big as you want to go in box wedge size pieces. It's still manageable, but it's like outdoor wood boiler size stuff or all night burners in the fireplace. So kind of a cool wedge, just not for me, not for what I'm looking for. I'm hoping this 2x4 kind of fits the bill. The 2x3 was another good solid option, but made more chaff and kind of waste, kind of mulchy stuff than I was expecting. That could have been just the round that we had. This ash has been sitting here for 5-6 months, air drying, some of it longer, so that could have played a part in it. It'd be interesting to run fresh green wood through this. All this ash is, like I said, had time to dry. Let's get splitting here. We'll take you guys along and let me know what you think. All right, before I forget, put the pin in. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through here. That was a pretty good round. Didn't stop up a bunch. It still produces a fair amount of trash. Don't get me wrong. That definitely has something to do with that 2x4 being here and 4x4 is out on the outbound. So it's 2x4, 2x4 down the middle, 4x4 on the outside, and 4x on the far outside. So it's producing 6 pieces, give or take, as long as the round is big enough. But I'm actually really impressed with what this is producing in this particular round. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so the top, I don't know, rung or so of this IBC tote is what's been coming off of that 2x4 box wedge. You get lots of stuff that looks like 2x4s. You get lots of squares that are, well, 2 by something. You get lots of this kind of stuff. What you don't get a lot of, and I think I'm okay with it, again, we're running this thing as a test. You know, this is the biggest piece coming out of there, but this is coming off of those outbound splits. So this doesn't have another vertical to cut against. So this is 4 inches by something, probably 5 or 6, because it's the furthest out piece there. Here's another one. That's basically a 4x4, but you can see it's slicing all the way through. That 35 ton splitter is shearing all of this. It's not splitting anymore. It's splitting on this side, shearing on this, and that's what's, you know, basically tearing up the splits. But it's giving you some trash with this because of how this is working, but it's giving you 3 nice clean faces here. You know, if I lift that off, this is pretty straight grained, so it's doing a really good job of this. So yeah, we're gonna keep running it. Like I said, jury's still out on this. I don't know. I'm gonna pan down to the table here. We'll kind of go through some of these pieces. So for bundle wood, this is a good piece of bundle wood. That's less than a hand, easy to grab, either hand, no problem. Here's another good piece. That's almost like a 2x4. That's a perfect bundle wood size piece in my opinion. You know, here's a couple more. These are 2x4s coming out of that middle. Those are perfect. I like that size wood for bundle. Actually, we're gonna set up a couple of these bigger ones that are a little more square. We'll measure those. Here's another good size one. Here's something coming off of an edge. There's some more triangles. There's something with a knot, so that's part of the trash. And there's a 2x4. There's a 2x4. Some skinny stuff. And there's another 2x4. There's a 4 by something. Another 2x4. Another 2x4. All right, so spin you guys around here a little bit. my tape measure. So that's 4 by 3, 3 1/4 by 4. So there's our 4-inch height. We've established that. Here's 3 5/8 by 3 1/4. Still a decent sized piece. Here's a little smaller. This is 2 1/2 by 3. Still a nice sized piece. Now here's what we're thinking, our 4x4s. That's almost on the money at 2 by 3 1/2. There again, 2 by 3 1/2, 3 3/4. 2, 3 1/2. 2. Let's see, the short side is 3, the long is 3 3/8. Two inches, 3 1/4. Yeah, it's producing what it's advertised at. 2x4s and 4x4s. You know, we're gonna keep running this thing. I'm cautiously optimistic that this is gonna be the exact wedge that we've been looking for. It is producing some scrap and some trash. I'll give you guys that. But as long as it's coming through, a lot of it full length, so 16 inches or so, I include that on my bundles. I include that on my bundles. Told you guys that in the past. It's pretty darn hard to start a fire with, you know, half a dozen 4x4s. There's no kindling, there's no tinder, there's no nothing. You know, you have a really dry wood or a lot of newspaper or a lot of something else to get big pieces of firewood lit. So I like to include my bundles 3 or 4 4x4s or 3 1/2 by 3 1/2s, and then 3 or 4 triangles of various sizes. Ideally a couple of like 2x2s or something like that, a couple of those, and then a handful of feathers. And what I mean by feathers, guys, is stuff like this. This is almost 16 inches, but this will light under a match or a little bit of newspaper or a fire starter, whereas this is going to struggle and the bigger pieces are really going to struggle. So I include a handful of these in all my bundles, just down the sides where they fit. It seems to be a pretty good deal. Haven't got any negative responses from it, so I'm assuming everything is pretty well received. So anyhow, we're gonna keep splitting here. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this 2x4 box wedge already. Like I said, we're gonna keep using it here for the next couple of weeks for sure, up until Firewood Frenzy at Wolfe Ridge, June 22nd from 8 to 5 p.m. Check out their website for more information on that. But you just might see myself and this 35 SHO box wedge there. So we're hoping to get there for it. All signs point to yes for now. So unless something comes up, that's the game plan, is to show up at Wolfe Ridge June 22nd. And show you guys this box wedge, hand out some stickers, do that kind of stuff, and run this. So and maybe run some of those other wedges if you guys want to see those too live in action. So but yeah, stick around, we're gonna keep working. What are you doing, Lizzie? Hey, kitty. You gonna be the woodyard cat? Hmm? You gonna be the woodyard kitty? Yes, good kitty. All right. All right, folks. That's gonna do it for this episode. Didn't get a lot of splitting in here. I had the camera at a wrong angle, but this is the first IBC tote that we ran all 6 box wedges through. So there's a little bit of everything. There's 3.5 by 3.5 on the bottom. There's what do we do? 4 by 4s on the next layer, 4.5 by 4.5 on the next layer. We did manage to cut a few of those in half, rerunning them through the machine, but that produces big wood. So you gotta have the right application for that 4.5 by 4.5 wedge. Then we followed up with the 2 by 3, which is probably from about, I'm gonna say here to here, give or take. And then we finished then the last, I don't know, top third of this, I suppose, maybe, is that 2 by 4. So everything that's mounted up will probably about here on the cage is all out of that 2 by 4, and it's really obvious because there's a piece, 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 there's another one, there's another one. They look like 2 by 4s in the face of this. Below that would be the 2 by 3 wedge. Below that, 4.5 by 4.5, 4 by 4, 3 by 3, and 3.5 by 3.5. There we go. Said it right that time. So yeah, I'm overall pretty impressed. Running all 6 wedges, they all do a little bit different. The key is going to be watching these probably on video at wolferidgemanufacturing.com and seeing which wedge is going to work best for your application. Don't quote me on this, but I think each machine is going to come with 1 box wedge. Now their standard is 3.5 by 3.5. That's not saying that it might be a possibility that you could option to have, instead of a 3.5 square, you want the 4 by 4 square. You're still going to get the single wedge and the bolt-on 4-way for the really gnarly stuff, just as an alternate, just as an alternate to the box wedge. So you still get that main knife and a bolt-on 4-way. That bolt-on 4-way is the same wedge that's going to come on the skid steer splitters. So same design, same everything. It just the way that this works on the box wedge here is this lifts out. There we go. That 2 by 4 plate there, that lifts straight up, and you drop in a single knife, and you bolt on your 4-way, you bolt on the 6-way, or you bolt on the 12-way. So lots of different options on this box wedge. It's really kind of the Swiss Army knife that Wolfe Ridge offers. So that's part of the reason we got it in this wood yard. Hey folks, appreciate you sticking around this long. We didn't get nearly enough footage on this 2 by 4, so we will be back. There is 4, 7, 10, 20, there's probably 30 or 40 more ash rounds to go here, and we still got more to cut up, more to do. We're gonna keep this 2 by 4 installed for the foreseeable future, at least through the next cord or two, before we even think about switching back to the 3.5 by 3.5 box wedge. I really want to try and put this thing through its paces in the next month and a half, 6-7 weeks. We got Firewood Frenzy coming up at Wolfe Ridge June 22nd. All signs point to that we will be there. At least myself, the 35 SHO box wedge hopefully will be in tow, as well as this wedge, the 3.5 by 3.5, and anything else that Wolfe Ridge wants to throw on it that day. So hoping that we can show you guys, what this machine is really capable of and what it's going to produce with a variety of wood. Here on around the yard, mainly my tree service drops ash, and so that's what we're running, is ash on ash on ash. And I'm not opposed to it. I like ash. It dries relatively quickly. It splits pretty clean. There's just lots of good parts about it. So if we do have a little bit of maple over there, maybe we'll try that. Actually, I should say we will try that with this wedge just to see how it does in that. I don't foresee any problems. It's been running this ash like a champ. So anyhow, we're gonna get cleaned up here before we get the rain moving in. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Much more footage of this 2x4 to come. So yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day around the yard.